to my channel where we question everything. My name is Dieter from Matsky, and the topic today is military affairs and about the German IRIS, IRIS/T, -T, and the American, or call it the Norwegian NASAMS air defense system that is going to be provided to Ukraine. Now, this is a second video about weapons that are being used in Ukraine and which are usually misunderstood. So what I'm trying to do is to give you some information on what the systems do and what their capabilities are. It is not an in-depth analysis or discussion. I'm not the Jane's Defense Weekly, but it gives you the general idea on what these weapons do and where they come from and what is their circumstances. Now, again, yesterday, Brian Beletic made a video and was discussing the German IRIS-T system that is being delivered to Ukraine. And again, he writes off or downplays the usefulness of this type of system. Now, he's unfortunately not the only one, so don't say I'll pick on him. Many pro-Russian pundits are talking about this, and I believe it's actually wrong. In the beginning, Ukraine had a lot of air defense systems. Do they still have them? I am not sure. I believe they still do have. What the quantities are, I don't know. We always talk about the S-300, but the S-300 is not the only air defense systems that the Soviet had, and I will make a separate video about the Soviet and Russian systems. But at the beginning of the SMO, as I've stated, the Russians sent a lot of precision missiles, let's call it the general nomenclature, or that's the right word, for the attack on Ukraine. They mostly targeted military targets, and where they destroyed factories, and etc., etc. And although the Ukrainian air defense was active, we didn't hear much about it. But recently, if you have followed the recent events in the last week, then you notice that the Kerch Bridge, which we call the Crimean Bridge, has been sabotaged or bombed, depending on what side of the fence you're sitting. And that's resulted in retaliatory strikes by the Russians. And I'm still trying to figure out how many missiles have been fired, because the sources are so contradictory that it's very difficult to determine who is right and who is wrong. But let's say about 200 missiles, which is, I believe, is a hell of a lot, more than actually were fired. But in any case, so let's assume 200 missiles have been fired. Now, this prompted a reaction from Ukraine, and especially a reaction from their NATO members. Now, if you always listen carefully, the narrative that was always presented by America and the NATO members is that they will supply weapons to defend Ukraine. That is one of the reasons why they are refusing to send the ATACMS, the long-distance missile system, to Ukraine, because that would have been an offensive weapon. Well, it could be both, but the point here is that the HIMARS are more than enough to do the job. And this is why they have now stepped up their deliveries of these systems. Now, Brian also discussed it, and one always has to ask, well, not ask before I get actually there, is that the narrative from the NATO countries is that they have nothing in stock, and they always have to manufacture these items. And even the German army doesn't even have the IRIS-T. And so basically Ukraine is getting a new version. But this is a fallacy. the weapon systems are available. Germany might not have it, but other countries do have it. And even the NASAMS system, NASAMS, you know, they have a very weird abbreviation for this, is in production and in use by other countries. So it's not that they cannot really supply or deliver these items if they really wanted to. But I will get to that point as I discuss the missile. So let's start with the IRIS-T system. Now, the IRIS-T nomenclature name is actually a misnomer. Hell, I'm trying difficult English with today. But the IRIS-T name is actually wrong. The IRIS-T is a missile. It's an air-to-air missile that has been designed a long time ago. And it was put into production several years back with the German army and with a lot of other countries' armies as well. The IRIS-T was actually a replacement for the AIM-9 Sidewinder. Now, yes, they were, it didn't go so straight forward development. It actually started all in the 1980s, and there were some manufacturers, American and German and various other companies that actually joined the forces to design a new system. And then when Germany reunited with Eastern Germany, then they found a lot of Russian existing missile systems, which they underestimated and had much better performance. And then these development programs have basically not stopped, but the groups have split up, and then the IRIS-T was developed. So the question, well, you can look now at the IRIS-T. To actually name it properly, the IRIS stands for Infrared Imaging System, and the T stands for Tail Thrust Vector Control. I don't know why they got to that abbreviation. Usually called AA and anti-aircraft, and then A tells you what the motor is and stuff like that, and ramjet, but in any case, they decided to change, to use that type of name for it, or abbreviation for that. What we're really talking about is the IRIS, the SLS, which is the SLS stands for Surface Launch System, or Surface Launch, SLM, like a Surface Launch Missile Battery System. So one has to a little bit update the current narrative that is being presented, unless an article is fairly accurate about that. In any case, the German Air Force took possession of these missiles in 5 December 2005 already. Now, that's about 17 years ago, and it has been in use in the German Air Force. Now, this new missile, the surface-launched missile, is a modification of the original air-to-air missile. It does have a bigger motor and load capacity, but the question always arises: are these systems available? When can they deliver it? And that is never really answered. Now, firstly, the company that developed the system should have built a prototype. And if the system was already, the missiles were already available a long time ago, then they should have been tested. Typically, like in 2014, there was a demonstration shooting conducted in Austria, or Australian, it was together with Australian multifunction radar, the CEA Technologies CFAR. In this version, this radar was designated, this GBMMR, what the hell that means in any case. And then it was also used in different systems. So the BMD Flex Control and Communication System by the Danish company Therma, and the Oerlikon Skymaster Combat Control System by Rheinmetall Air Defense. So the question is, what do you really need? Do you need the command and control center, or do you need the missiles? Because a command and control system, the LSS, that might still be under development and past the prototype, but not into the manufacturing, mass production phase yet. But the missiles do work with other systems, which are already existing and which are already used by members of NATO. So one has to ask the question is, why can't the missiles be delivered with a different command and control system, which is already available and can be delivered now, not later? So unfortunately, against my wishes, I have to agree with the Ukrainians, and when they're asking, when can we get this stuff, and why do we only get it in a month or 2 months' time or 6 months' time? We want it now, and why can't you deliver now? And it seems to me that the Western politicians are stonewalling the whole matter. So one has to ask yourself, why are they actually stonewalling the matter? And it's not limited only to these systems. The usually narrative is that they only supply out of surplus stock. They don't want to give their own stock that they need. Now the question is, if you have an army and you have existing equipment, then you will only release that, you will spare that backup armament and ammunition, or whatever you want to call it, because you think you're going into a war situation. If you don't think like that, then you might as well give it to Ukrainians and at your own time replace those weapon systems. But the West and the NATO countries are not doing that. They are unwilling to release equipment from their own stores that are going to be used for their own purposes. Now, this actually can be interpreted in many ways. That means that either NATO is prepared to engage Russia later on in Ukraine, or they are thinking, war is not cheap. Are they going to still support Ukraine, and is Ukraine not a dead horse, like beating a dead horse? So those are more or less why I always believe that the weapons are not coming to what Ukraine really wants and needs. But we can come back to the IRIS-T or SLM system. It can be integrated with a variety of AESA radars, such as the HENSOLDT, TRML-4D, the Tails Groundmaster, as I said, the CA CFAR, and the Saab Giraffe 4A. There's even a version that can integrate with the Lockheed Martin Skykeeper command and control system. And what you basically just need is that you need dual IRIS-T SML launchers, which was shown at the Index in 2019 under the name of the Falcon Ground-Based Air Defense. So as you can see, the system doesn't only comprise out of the missiles. Those are the launchers, and those are produced by Diehl in Germany. But it is so NATO standard that it can be integrated with many other radar systems and many other command control systems. And there are plenty of these missiles available, lying in storage, because they have been bought, or the first batch, the Germans in 2005. even the Norwegian army, who's actually building the system together, well, they are going to use the IRIS-T launchers, and then the radars from Weibel Scientific, and they're going to reuse the command center of the NASAMS, which are also going to be delivered to Ukraine. But that is more the American side, while American initialized and funded system. Now, just now a look at the IRIS-T missile. There are actually two versions available. There's a short-range missile, that's about a range of 20 kilometers, and then they have the medium range, which is a 40 kilometer. What makes these missiles so unique, well, not unique, but more powerful, is that they thrust vector, and they can actually execute a turn of about 60 G, which is very much. The flight altitude ceiling is about 20 kilometers. Their mass is about 87.5 kilograms. Their length is more or less 3 meters. And they have a diameter of 127 millimeters. The warhead is a high explosive fragmentation, and the detonation mechanism is either impact or active radar proximity fuse. These missiles, while the surface-launched missile has actually enhanced capabilities, and they're capable of destroying aircrafts, helicopters, cruise missiles, which is important, air-to-surface missiles, anti-ship missiles, anti-radar rockets, and large-caliber rockets. But you must remember, these are short distances. We're talking maximum 40 kilometers. So this is not an S7 or a Patriot system, and it was never supposed to function as that. Just remember, we always talk about the S300 and the Patriot. Those have a specific functions, just as these systems have a specific function, and that is limited to the short to medium range. They also have a high probability of killing a UAV and any other small maneuvering threats. And because they have this high maneuverability, they can offer a 360 degrees defense capability. If you ever have seen an S300 missile being launched, you will always notice it's being ejected out of the tube, and then you can see the thrust rockets, and suddenly the rocket comes like that and makes it like that, and there it goes. That's a very high turn maneuverability, and I think these things are more or less the same. And by that, you can actually point the missile to vertically and then engage on 360 degrees in target and shoot it out, and it will go adjust to that direction. You don't have to point it physically at the target. Now, I have taken some footage of, or I got some footage of the IRIS system, but those are more generally. There are some photos about NASAMS system, but both systems have a crew of 2. And if you really, well, if you always listen to the narrative, it's always about training, 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 training. You have to train the troops, you have to train the troops. But in this case, you only have to do 4. You have to train 4 guys per battery. And depending on how many you're going to get and so on, that's what you need. And if you really look at the system, it's all electronic. It's like running a computer program. I'm sure that the targeting of acquisition of targets and the tracing of the targets is all automatic. And I think at the end of the day, probably it's just, hey, press a button and there you go. It's like more a manual decision-making effort. Yes, you still need the training. How long? If you are a clever person, then it's not that long. In any case, a command post or command center can also be about 20 kilometers from the launchers. Which means if you think about the targeting and anti-radar systems, you can actually protect the command center and even a launcher by distributing the systems over various four locations. But they are all connected via radio and other means. And that's how you can basically space them. Positioning, that's a better word, positioning. Now, they also say, if you look at the missiles that the Russians are using, that's mostly caliber, and I always forget the Russians versions. So those are not that fast moving. And the Russians are using it for the long distance. So if you want to protect Lviv or Kiev, this would be the semi-ideal system. But unfortunately, the missiles are not strong enough to prevent an Iskander missile. So they won't be able to protect Kiev assets against an Iskander attack. Now we can come to the NASAMS. Just remember, there's always an S at the back. And it's going to be delivered by the Americans from Norway. And again, the name says it's called Norwegian Advanced Surface-to-Air Missile System. So it's actually a Norwegian system, but it has been developed in cooperation with America and other NATO members. And on the same basis, it is a ground-based air defense system, and there's a short to medium range missiles. In a similar fashion, can you defend against unmanned UAVs, helicopters, cruise missiles, unmanned combat aerial vehicles like the suicide ones, and fixed-wing aircraft. Now, this system is a lot older than the Iris. It has been in service since 1998 until now. Naturally, like all military systems, have been upgraded through the years. And the main missile that it uses is the AIM-120 AMRAAM, again, Advanced Medium Range Air-to-Air Missile. Okay. So let's look at the missile, the AMRAAM. Again, you have various versions, a short range of 30 kilometers, and an upgraded version that can go up to 50 kilometers. The maximum altitude ceiling also differs between the models. The first ones could handle 25 kilometers. The more advanced version 3 can go up to 35 kilometers. It has I'm going to stick to the original one. The mass is about 162 kilograms, which is quite heavier than, which is nearly double than of the Iris. It has a diameter of 178 millimeters, which makes it 1.5 times diameter the size of the Iris. But it has the same type of warhead, high explosive fragmentation, and the detonation mechanism is either impact or active radio, similar to the Iris. Now, this system is a lot more versatile. And as per NATO standards, as I believe, and NATO regulations, this system cannot only fire the 120 AMRAAM, it can also fire the AIM-9 Sidewinder, the Iris-T, the AMRAAM, the AMRAAM-ER, and there are probably multiple other, thousands of other older missiles in the NATO arsenal that can be fired from the system without requiring major specialized modifications. And this makes it so much more useful to the Ukrainians. In fact, the UK government has even offered to donate hundreds of additional air defense missiles, including the AMRAAMs, to Ukraine. And this AMRAAM is one of the most widely used air missiles in the world stockpiles, and therefore there are many of them available. Now, a NASAMS battery is a very modular design. Again, it sits out of launchers. There are usually 3 launchers in a system. And each launcher can carry about 6 missiles. And then you have the fire distribution center, that's the command and control, which is like located on a pickup, where the other system is more like, is combined and has a more truck configuration. And then it has an active 3D radar, the Sentinel, and it has a passive electro-optic and infrared sensors. And that basically makes up the whole system. Now, in the similar as the others, these units can be distributed in various locations up to a distance of 20 kilometers. And although a battery consists out of 3 launches, it can go up to 12, and that means that the system launches can be 72 missiles, locked and ready, locked and loaded, ready for firing. Yeah. So, and the command system has also the capability of engaging multiple targets at the same time, and I believe control up to 24 missiles at any given event. So if the Russians want to attack a position which is defended by NASAMS, then, and they want to overload the system, then they have to shoot at least more than 24 missiles. Now, again, they have a crew of 2, only 2, and then you train another 2 for backup or for night services. This system has been used officially by about 12 countries since, well, 2020 was a survey done, and about 12 countries have used the system. And these includes Norway, Spain, America, the Netherlands, Finland, and a number of undisclosed customers. Also Oman, Lithuania, Australia, Hungary, and Qatar. They would like to buy the system. And also Poland, Greece, Sweden, and Turkey operate a Kongsberg command and control solution for the various weapons. Now, as I have stated before, war is expensive. And just for the sakes, the IRST system cost, that means all 3 vehicles, cost $136 million. And each missile costs $430,000 US. In comparison, the cost of the NASAMS battery is $23 million, which is like 5 times less, more or less. But an AMRA missile, the 120, costs you $1.2 million, which is again 3 times more expensive than the others. But as I have pointed out before, you don't need the 120 AMRAAM missile. You can use a lot of older missiles, which I believe will be available at a much, much cheaper cost per missile. Now, what would be the application be of these missiles? Or what if I was in control of Ukraine, what would I do with that? Well, it depends on what you want to do, but it's air defense is the protection of high-value assets. And I've mentioned in the previous videos, which I realized when the first Gulf War took place, and America gained air superiority, and it was actually especially emphasized during the Libya obligation to protect, what was it? In any case, the stupid argument to destroy Libya. If you cannot protect your assets, and if you don't have if you cannot deny air superiority, then you might as well go into guerrilla warfare and forget about all your tanks and all your other stuff. Because if you cannot shoot back, then what's the point? But on the other hand, is you can decide that you need to protect your cities, your civilian. Now, from a theoretically point of view, I can put 1 unit into the Kiev city, call it center, park, whatever, but a nice visibility. You need the visibility. It's 360 degrees around. And then you can, I'm sure that the borders are not more than 20 kilometers from the center of the borders of the city are not more. So a good system of this with 3 launchers giving you 24, 18 missiles, who should be at any given time be able to protect Kiev. The same you can do with Lviv and any other stuff. Then you have to protect your power sources, their power supply or generation capacity. And then I'm not totally sure, but there are some other assets as well. So if I have to think, 10 would be a nice figure, 20 would be even nicer, 30 would be even more nicer. But these systems are not there for the front. They are not supposed to go to the battle line. Now, unfortunately, if you look at some of the systems that have been sold, they haven't been sold in large quantities. I think, say, 3 to Lithuania, I think 4 to Egypt. I cannot remember all the other ones. Australia, I think, was the biggest one. If I have the rough calculation, it should have been like, we're talking of the NASAMS version. They might have bought 100 of them. And since NATO, Australia is part of NATO, they might as well give Ukraine, say, 10 of them or even 20 of them, because why do you need it, and why do you need it now? Unless you are waiting for something. But you're not in a war. There is no indication that you're going to join a war, unless you plan in the future to do it. And, well, unless you provoke Taiwan as well, China as well, but you're not going to use those systems then. So, and it's not effective against ballistic missiles. So, and that is what needed. China needs to shoot on Australia. So, what's the point? You might as well send them to Ukraine. So the big question is, why are these people not doing it? Now, naturally, this system is not the only air defense system. On the western side is a Patriot, but the Ukrainians still have some S-300s. The S-300s are for aircraft and for ballistic missiles, which counts on the Iskander. But these things are expensive, very expensive. And then if I looked at back at my years here in the South African Army, we had still the gun type of air defense systems, which I believe are still part of the Ukrainian and the Russian air defense systems. I have not known because I haven't looked it up yet, but I will make a video about that as well. But if I have to judge, or if I had to design a system for short range defense systems where I can build multiple parts, I will probably have 1 or 2 or 3 dedicated radar systems of high quality. And then I will have some, not launchers, yes, maybe launchers. Launchers can fire a Stinger or so, sized missile, or even smaller. And I will have some systems that I will call it the Gatling gun. You know, multiple nozzle. How do you say it in English? Balls? Rifle balls? Or, in any case, you know what a Gatling gun is. And maybe then some 20mm or 30mm anti-aircraft system that can fire explosive rounds. Basically what they do on ships. But this is unfortunately, I've come to end to my video. If you like what you heard, you know, just for the sakes, my videos are backed up on Rumble. And I got more likes on the Rumble than I got on YouTube. Come on, people. Join the channel. I will discuss more of these military equipment used in Ukraine. I'm not going to do all of them. And relative to the Ukrainian conflict. And because they are misunderstood, or at least people don't know why they and how they are used and what is their functions and so forth. So subscribe to the channel and you will be notified next time if I make another video. And until next time, cheers.